Today I'm in conversation with Purva Agarwal, the founder of Atterile, a styling led interior design practice. She's a founder I deeply admire because A, of course, the final outcome of their work is beyond excellent. You can check it out yourself. And B, the systems that she's been putting into place to make that work happen are also really well aligned. If you're someone who's on the journey of building a creative business, this conversation is for you.
Okay, let's get started. Purva, I know we have known each other since actually the time Atterile was a mood board in itself.
Yeah. Literally at the formative time.
Yeah. So, this is something I've seen with so many creative founders. We start as practitioners, as individual practitioners, very focused on the craft. And at some point of time, it ends up becoming a studio.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that shift is not very immediate or very clear.
Also not very smooth.
Yeah. So, how is that for you? When did you realize that this has now become a studio? It's not just about me practicing interior styling, decor.
I think I am still going through the shift. I don't think I'm fully there. It's a lot about your own identity. That, okay, I am doing this because I want to feel something, I want to do something good, and I want to create good work. And that is your goal from the beginning because you're just doing something that you love. And then eventually you start realizing that, apart from creating good work, you have to create conditions in which good work happens, because other than that, then how does it turn into a studio? Then it's just me running something as a practitioner only, because then I am there doing everything and my identity is attached to everything. So I think I'm learning that right now, that my job is now to create the conditions in which the work continues to happen, and then the identity of the studio kind of is separate from me.
Yeah, so that's quite a process to be in. You're in the thick of shifting from a practitioner to a studio.
Yeah.
And you said it so beautifully that the conditions have to be there for the
Yeah.
work to continue happening.
Yeah.
And how does that feel? Like, on one hand, it can feel like it's not just me, it can be a downer, or it can feel very liberating. How does that feel for you?
I think I would say it's a 50% of both. Like, it feels liberating that, okay, fine, the vision that I had is possible because I'm able to create something bigger than myself. But it also feels uncomfortable because it's really scary, because you're moving outside of your own skill set, sort of, and you're trusting a lot other factors around you for it to happen. So it's not just you anymore. So it feels scary, uncomfortable, but there are days when it feels really liberating as well, because you start realizing that, okay, people are choosing Attirel, not just you. So that feels really good.
Yeah, I think it's a success if people start knowing you for your work, whether it's the name of your studio. I know authors say that I would rather have people recognize my book than my name.
Yeah.
And then realize that I'm the
Yeah.
person behind it.
Yeah, I think yeah, because even, like, for example, if someone ever writes and say that, oh, I was scrolling through this post and this felt so Attirel, or this home feels Attirel, I feel like, okay, fine, that we're able to protect a philosophy than just like my personal taste and identity in some way.
So, actually, picking up from that, that people recognize Attirel rather than just you as the individual. In your own practice, because you're actively part of all the projects and not just running the studio, is there a distinction between where your opinion, your style ends and the studio's begins?
So I would say that, like, the philosophy of Attirel and the time that I started Attirel was also like a very transformative time for myself. There were a lot of questions that I was asking about myself, my belonging, my identity. So I feel like there are values that are there in Attirel, but I don't want Attirel to carry my limitations and my personal tastes completely, because the whole point is that it needs to be a space where people are able to discover themselves. So I don't want it to become a full reflection of my personal taste. Having said that, there is a journey that I have been through, and the things that I have liked, and the way that I want to combine things. I feel like there's a lot of resonance of the same style with a lot of people. So I feel like that is great, because that connection has to happen of why someone wants to choose Attirel, because they
Yeah.
find some connection, some belonging, something to that space. But I don't want to take it to my personal taste only.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when we did this one house in Hyderabad, which was like, our core philosophy is that we marry this European style with Indian style really well, because I think that's who I am. Like, I'm from Jaipur, I have loved Paris and all the European places. So there she wanted me to kind of combine the South Indian style with the European style, which was a first for me. And then that's when I realized that, okay, everybody's coming from a different place and they're resonating with some things which are similar. It doesn't have to be the same color palette, it doesn't have to be the things that I like from Jaipur or whatever, or like which are so personal to me. I think it's a philosophy of the merging of the two in the right percentage, where you bring out the things that they feel close to.
Yeah.
So I feel like that I want Attiral's identity to be separate from mine, and it should be that it has to be about people who resonate with the same style, but like in their own way, and
Yeah.
it has to be their self discovery journey of like, oh, like, while doing the house, they should be like, oh, I didn't know that I really like these colors. Oh, for the first time I've realized that, okay, this is something that I really resonate with, and this is something that I really want in the house. I think those are the things that I would want the studio to be known
Yeah.
for.
So while in the process of creating Attirel, and even before that, you have found your personal
Yeah.
taste. What I'm hearing is that the studio's personality is more like what the client needs versus what the team members bring. So
Yeah.
the studio is the space where all of that kind of comes together, and
Yeah.
every project ends up having its own identity.
Yeah.
Every project also becomes a journey of self exploration and discovery for the client
Yeah.
themselves.
And I think that process is interesting for everybody, for us also, to find out different things about people, different stages of life that they are in, and why are they creating this home, why is this room meant to be like this. And then we also take them through the journey of like, we ask them these open-ended questions because we want them to go deeper. We want them to like, think about things, because we don't see, the thing is, it's like you see something at some person's place and you're like, okay, this looks nice, because it's safer, because you don't know what it'll be if you do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we are there.
Yeah.
You find out what is it, something that you resonate with,
Yeah.
and then we'll figure out how to make it like aesthetic and cohesive with the rest of the things.
Yeah, and I believe a lot of clients need someone with that expertise who can guide them
Yeah.
through that journey where they start trusting their experiences and
Yeah.
opinions as well. I think in other conversations we've talked about how their life story is such an important point
Yeah.
for your work to begin, and that's really novel. And I come from a background in architecture, and I know that we account for people's functional needs and so on, but
Yeah.
the way you account for people's emotional needs and emotional backstory is really mind-blowing for me to explore as well.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the rules of building a creative business, because there's so much business advice out there. There are so many guidebooks about running a business, and business coaches and all kinds of resources available to entrepreneurs. But the rules of running a creative business seem very different.
Yeah.
So I want to know from your background, from your experience. We met at IIM Ahmedabad. You come from a business family. How many rules do you feel you had to accept versus discard as a creative entrepreneur?
Yeah. I think apart from just creative businesses, I also feel like service and product businesses are slightly different in creative space as well. And I think one thing that I learned over time was that to kind of close that gap of like how to productize a service business, like, because that's what helps you make the frameworks and the systems easier. So I stopped treating my studio, my business, like a service business.
Oh, okay.
I started treating like a product business. So we have 3 services. We have things that we do. We will explore everything in that, but there are certain parameters that are fixed, because keeping everything open ended doesn't help me make any system, any framework, if I want to make anyone's life easier, whether
Yeah.
it's my client, whether it's my team member, whether it's my life.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I realized, that okay, you can productize a service business. The second thing that I kind of, everybody used to be like, oh, you have to keep your emotions out of the business. I just didn't agree with it. I don't think I resonate with it. I don't think I can do that. I feel like people don't come to us because we are like super efficient or we do something fast and technically correct or something. I think they come to us for, firstly, they come to us because we understand something emotional about the homes and the emotional part of it. And I genuinely believe that your empathy, intuition, storytelling, building relationships is the biggest part of at least my business, or I would say creative businesses, because you're building partnerships with people who are super passionate about certain things, or there are a lot of emotions involved in a decision of making a home as well.
Yeah.
So how am I discarding that part?
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like I decided to embrace it and use it as a strength, that, okay, we are about emotions, we care about our clients, we care about the projects that we do, we care about how they feel in the process. And I think that kind of helped me create systems around them. That, okay, what do I make to make their life easier? What do I make a framework which can help them think faster and come to a conclusion faster, and then help do that? So I think that angle really helped us grow. So that was one. Having said that, there was another thing that everybody, especially because I come from a business family which is like into manufacturing and everything, and they're always like, oh, client is your god, right?
Yeah.
That is something I kind of don't agree with, because they, for them it's like any business that comes is important, right? Then I started realizing, no, there has to be a resonance in the aesthetic. Apart from that, it has to be in the values and in the process, because our entire process is very digital. It's a very different way how we do things, how we share things. It is built for people who have busy lives,
Yeah.
who don't want to spend 10 days in roaming around and checking out things, right?
Yeah.
Like, they want curated options for which they have got us.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste their time, my time. So I feel like if someone doesn't resonate with that process, that person is not aligned with my studio company at
Yeah.
all. So I have stopped treating it like that. Oh, any business that comes is something that I have to take it. And I've realized that alignment, seeing that we are a good fit, is the first and foremost important thing, because you're spending 6 months, 1 year with like one client. You don't want to go through the stress, and they don't want to go through the stress. And it's not about someone being a bad client. It's
Yeah.
just about the alignment is not there, because how they function and how you function is different. So
Yeah.
you're just going to create friction throughout. So that is something, like, we've started avoiding that a lot because of realizing that.
Yeah, so working with the right people.
Yes.
Because here it's not just about the product you're selling,
Yeah.
which might be happening in a typical product based
Yes,
company
yes,
or a
because-
manufacturing unit.
Yeah.
This is a relationship led
Yes.
business.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is emotional, it is relationship based. It is not like, oh, I've sold the product and then I'm out of it.
Yeah.
And then I can figure out some customer care and fix it or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, this is completely different.
Yeah.
So and it is a business that works on word of mouth. So
Yeah.
it's important to, like, avoid wherever possible, like, and make sure that the aligned clients are that you're working with, because the thing is, they will be trusting you more. It'll be easier, the process, and you will do it faster, better, and you probably will be putting more effort somehow, like, more in the sense, like, you want to do more.
Yeah.
Because there's so much understanding and everything, and there's less
Yeah.
friction. You feel like doing more in that space. So
That's
I think
true.
that helps a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
But it also takes courage to say no to a client that might be, might seem like a very profitable person to onboard.
Yeah. Yeah.
What comes to mind when you have to say no, but then the finance side of it comes in?
I think it's the experience. like
Hmm.
because I've gone through it.
Yeah.
It's not like the first day I could say no.
Yeah.
Right, like I did say no on the first day, where I would say that okay, if someone really wanted something very minimal and stuff, and I was like, okay, this is something we don't resonate with. Like, I'm not going to be enjoying the project. You're not going to be. I'm going to pushing you to, like, try certain things. Are just not fair, right?
Yeah.
So those I would say yes. But after that, I just kept onboarding wherever I felt excited. I was like, oh, this project potential is so much. I didn't think about the alignment of the client and the process so much. And then that did affect a lot of things. The output it affected, the process that we went through got affected and everything. And that's when I realized that it's a long time for me to go through that anxiety and stress in that entire space. So now I just have to think about that.
Yeah.
Like, no money is worth that.
Yeah.
That's all.
So it's the kind of learning that only comes through personal experience.
Yes.
And also it's not just a learning, it's not something you can take from another business's
yeah, I think
experiences and
yeah.
implement it.
Yeah.
You have to experience it. You need to have conviction. Otherwise, part of you always
Yeah.
keeps feeling, "Nahi, I wish, why
Yeah,
not
because-
say yes?"
Yeah, because you feel like, oh, am I overthinking this? Am I thinking about this too much? This is such a good opportunity. We'll get to do a project here.
Yeah.
Like, you're constantly thinking about that, and you're missing all the things that might not work out
Yeah.
for you. So I think now, for example, if you think about it and if you make a criteria that, okay, fine, this is my studio, this is what we do, this is our process. So anybody who's not aligned, maybe make how we have certain parameters of like how we judge a client call or a communication or this thing, and we made those things. And if we feel like this is not aligned, then we say that, okay, I think we're not best suited for each other because this is our process, and I think you'll be more comfortable with this. So it's not about oh, someone's bad, someone's wrong. It's just a alignment thing. So I think that communicating that is also very
it's just not the
important.
right fit. That's all.
That's all. Yeah. So,
Speaking about growth, because you're saying no to something, you'll also be saying yes to other things, and you'll be taking slightly more conscious decisions about how to hire, when to grow, when to scale up. Certain projects bring with them the opportunity to go into new geographies, work with larger budgets. So in a typical business, it's guided by financial sense. But in a relationship and people-based business like Adderall, how much of it is financial foresight? How much of it is a gut feel and your team's structure? Like what plays into this?
Yeah, so I would say this is something that I'm again in the middle of it, because it's always like a transition. But I think as a person, I've always been this person where I have worked with my gut intuition. Like, it's very hard for me to not do that. So for me, I have said to a lot of things before I felt qualified for it. Like, even my first interior project, I was shifting from set design. It's not like I had done a project, but I just felt like I could do it. So that was a gut thing for me. And even like thinking that, okay, can we do a bigger project here? It was always like, okay, do I want to work in the city more? Do I want to do these kind of spaces more? Is this something that I want to explore? Also, because as a person, I don't want to stay stagnant, right? Like, I also want to grow. I also want to learn new things myself. So I think it's a mix of both, but also now I'm starting to realize, like, since last 2 years, that the financial part also matters a lot, right? So you have to see that, okay, like, does this project, maybe we're earning a little less money, but this is going to get us a lot more projects, right? So you have to make that decision and be like, okay, fine, this is right now. And then after that, you realize, okay, this project is low budget also, and I don't want to do more projects like this also. Then why should I take this up? So now it's like your intuition, gut intuition, and your financial decision kind of go hand in hand a little bit, because you're like, okay, fine, if I am taking this decision right now that I am choosing a project which maybe not be that lucrative money wise, but it is going to give me a lot of exposure, learning capabilities, growth, and like more possible opportunities, then I need to make up for it in some other way to make sure our financial stability is maintained. And also, like, I can be excited about a project and be like, oh, I want to do this, and but not realizing that my team skill set is not that.
Yeah.
Their capabilities are not there yet. That would be a stupid decision.
Hmm.
So obviously, you have to think that okay, fine. If I'm doing this, what is the current status? Is there someone I can hire? Is there someone I can get a freelance on freelance basis
Hmm.
to help us compensate for the things that we don't have, so that we can still deliver the outcome that we want to.
Yeah.
So I think those decisions are all gut based, I would say, but now they're all like also backed by some financial things.
Yeah, and what switched 2 years back, if you don't mind sharing, when you realized that, okay, now I need to slow down and actually evaluate a project from multiple lenses and not just as a practice. See, I know when I was freelancing, I would say yes to a bunch of things.
Yeah.
There was not much at stake.
Yeah.
Even right now, honestly, I work as a consultant. So even if something is not making too much financial sense, but I feel like, yeah, I'm really excited about this,
Mhm.
I would go for it. But when there's a team and there's a office space and there are in your case there's a lot of
There's overheads, there's
lot of, yeah, a lot of
responsibility.
overheads,
Yeah.
then what shifted?
So I think that shifted, because
Okay.
before that it was like the stakes were much lower.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, fine, I can manage this is
Hmm.
okay. And the stakes just kept getting high. You get a office, you expand your team, you want to do better shoots, you want to get better
Hmm.
photographers,
Hmm.
you want to document your work properly, you want to be more published, visible, whatever, like the
Hmm.
stakes just get higher.
Yeah.
And then you realize that okay, now everything just doesn't depend on like your wish and what you think is exciting for you.
Yeah.
It has to be backed by the finances, because you don't want to live in the fear of like what is going to happen.
Yeah.
So because that just takes away the joy of doing the whole
Yes.
thing. Like if I have to constantly worry about that, okay, have I made enough this month?
Hmm.
Am I going to be able to pay all my vendors, all my overheads and everything? I don't want to sit and think about that every month.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in that fear. Then it is
Yeah.
taking away all the creative part of exploration of the whole thing. So that's why I realized that okay, I need to be more aware of data.
Hmm.
That was also one thing that I hated, like looking at the data, because I was so scared.
Ah.
Like that, oh my god, what if, and then I'll have to worry about it. So I wanted to live in my bubble. And then I realized that with the help of few friends,
Yeah.
that looking at data actually clears off all your anxiety.
Yes.
It helps you plan better.
Yeah.
And you are more like sturdy in your business, that okay, fine, I have data over the next 4 months, so I know what I need to plan in the future. I know this I can't take,
Yeah.
because this is not going to help us right now. Our bandwidth
Yeah.
is this much. This is how many projects my team can take. So right now is not the time for this. So if I don't have data for the proper time, and I'm not analyzed everything, it just doesn't work then.
Yeah, that's true. I think creative founders, most of us come from a visual or other kind of like creative training, and we're not
Yeah.
used to looking at numbers.
Yeah.
So when we do have to look at them, it's definitely a learning curve.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at this stage, you feel like, there's that higher resistance to learning something
Yeah,
new. But
because it's like, why do I have to do this?
Yeah.
I'm already doing my job, which is a creative part.
yeah,
And then you realize that after a point of time, are you looking at your business as a practitioner, hobbyist,
yeah,
or you're looking at it as a business studio?
business. Yes,
That you have to make that shift. It's a
Yeah.
choice, right?
Yeah.
Like you can choose, you can stay in this space. You don't need to become a studio where like things are happening at a scale system. You can decide that okay, I just want to have 2 people in my company. I want to take these many projects,
Yeah.
and this is what I want to stay in my space. And then you don't have to do all of that.
yeah.
But if you're a person who wants to do that, then it's a part of that. So you have to
Yes.
learn that.
Yes, because
You
it's
have to be good at
creative
that.
business. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
creative business.
Business. Yeah, you can't forget the business part
Yeah.
of it. It's not a creative practice or a job or something.
Yeah.
So that transition has been, I think, the biggest personal growth space also for me.
Yeah, getting comfortable with numbers.
Getting comfortable with numbers, getting over certain fears that you have of your own self, because eventually everything comes down to emotional fears. It's
Yeah.
not about technicality. Why am I not able to look at numbers? Why are some people able to look at numbers?
Yes.
I was never told that I have to do this. It was some big scary thing.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I think, there's so much knowledge available at our now with AI, and you can literally ask the LLMs to teach you anything.
Anything, yeah.
So knowledge is not scarce at all.
Yeah.
But the resistances that we hold is now becoming the bigger thing that we have to acknowledge.
Yeah.
And now nobody can say that, I want to learn operations and I don't know where to learn.
Yeah. You can't.
You-
There is a solution for
there
everything.
is a solution for
Yeah.
everything. You have to be willing to kind of
Kind
work
of,
on that
yeah,
solution.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just sitting and like complaining about different things, and you're like, oh, how do I do this? Oh, this is the problem of my business. Or this is the problem of my business. Yeah,
Yeah.
but like there are solutions, and you can
Yes.
choose to do that.
Yes.
So I think now is not the time where you can
Yeah.
cry about anything.
Yeah.
And I think growing up with my I think my dad is also like a very solution oriented problem solving person. So if I think I learned from there that okay, this is what it is. You can come and complain about something,
Yeah.
but there is a solution.
Yeah.
You just have to look for the solution.
Yeah.
So I think that really helped me in my business as well, like to turn the whole space into like a solution oriented mindset, a problem solving space, instead of seeing it like just a problem.
Set of problems.
Yeah,
to come
even
to
like
every day.
everybody who's working with me, I always tell them like, there will be things that will happen,
Yeah.
there will be things that will go wrong,
Yeah.
and you just have to figure out, are you going to be scared about it, that oh shit, what has happened now, or are you going to think that okay, how can I resolve this in the best way and find like 3 good solutions or what are possible?
Yeah.
Because everybody because it is a space which is unpredictable. There is a lot of like stuff that is going on, there is labor involved, a lot of things, there are delays, things happen, right?
Yeah.
Like how that communication goes through a client as well. So I feel like problem solving and realizing that okay, I can learn something, I can do something, I can upskill myself, and everything is possible. I don't have to be like, oh, this is so hard for me and I can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what you said, this one line, that problems are going to happen.
Yeah.
Because people feel that entrepreneurship is hard, or they expect it to become so well automated or so fine tuned that they don't have to bother at all. But entrepreneurship is about problem solving.
It is.
And honestly, even being in a job,
Yeah.
there is
Everything
no
is problem
job
solving.
today where you're just going and repeating the same thing
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
If it's so automated, probably a machine is doing it.
Yeah.
The
I think
value of humans
yeah.
is in the problem solving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Solving new problems that haven't come
Yeah.
up before, and
And I
that's
think it's
where
exciting also,
yeah.
where you're able to solve it. And
Yeah.
you're like, okay, fine, I was really worried about something and now this is done.
Yeah.
So I think that mindset shift is very important. And now because there's availability of everything,
Yeah.
you don't have to think that, oh, I have to like check with so many people and everything. Everything is like right there
Yeah.
for you.
Do you have any recommendations, if at all, for creatives who are becoming a creative business, that how can you get comfortable with numbers?
That's a really hard one because I think it took me a long time to
Yeah.
get there. And you have to find people in your business. See, it's the same thing, right? Like you have a set of problems
Yeah.
because of certain belief systems that you have.
Yes.
You have to speak to people who have opposite, who don't have those problems. That's all the solution is. You cannot
Yeah.
be sitting with people who are scared themselves.
Yes.
You cannot be sitting with your friends who are also worried about this and like, oh, let's do together. No.
Huh.
You have to find people who are completely opposite, who their belief system is different from yours. And I think they help you see a different perspective, which helps you resolve what you're worried about,
Yeah.
right? Because we need people to do it. I don't think this is something that it's easier to solve alone. So like you said, there's business coaching, there's leadership coaching, there is like understanding. Even like, you know, I would say that, for example, if you have your own CA or someone, like find someone who you can have a conversation with,
Yeah.
who can explain the concepts to you when you
Yeah.
are confused about it.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, this is how it happens.
Yeah.
Just ask. So I feel like that really helps reduce all the structure and the scariness around it, and becomes like a lot more simpler. So I would say I've been lucky where I have people in my life who have helped me see things in a more simpler way, who have a different perspective from me.
Yeah.
Because same fear people are creating the same
We're
thing.
just in our echo chamber
Yeah,
of
we're
numbers
just
are scary, numbers
numbers
are
are
scary,
scary. Oh
numbers are
shit, I
scary.
did this, and like, you know, you can motivate
Yeah.
each other, but at what this thing.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that is the most important thing I would say.
Yeah, you need people to talk to who don't have the same
Yeah,
fears as you.
yeah.
So speaking of numbers, another, you know, supposedly taboo thing in the creative world is thinking about money in general, uh, especially money for yourself. I don't know about other fields, but I know that while getting trained as an architect and while in other spaces as well, there's a sort of thing that, oh, you're in this for the passion, and there's almost like a kind of distaste that, oh, she's talking about
But
money.
money first,
Yeah,
and like, you know,
yeah.
all of these things. I know a lot of people get like dissuaded by the fact that, oh, someone's, why is it so transactional, and why does
Yes.
it feel like so like, you know, that
Yeah.
you only care about this. But I would say that was me, like a few years ago. Actually, for a long time that was just me. I used to be like, oh, I'm in it for the passion, I just want to enjoy this. I
Yeah.
don't want to talk about money, it's so embarrassing to talk about money.
Yeah.
It's so embarrassing to ask for money.
Yeah.
And now I've realized that, excuse me, why? Like,
We are business people.
yeah, like also like you are providing a service which is changing someone's life.
Yes.
Like, you know, and you're putting effort, you're thinking about so many things. Why should you not think about money?
Yeah.
You know, like the passion is there, and my passion is not going away just because I'm asking for money.
Yes.
It is there. You give me money, my passion will increase. You know, like I want to put in more effort,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
that's why one of the things where, you know, like when people haggle with your fees a lot and all is like just a no for us. Because we are already like understanding that, okay, what is the value that we are providing, what is the time that is going in, how many people am I putting in, how much time this is taking in. We've
Yeah.
thought of certain things and we put prices for certain things,
Yeah.
right? And also the value that we are providing based on what we're doing.
Yes.
So I feel like anybody who questions that just means that they are not aligned with you, right? Little bit I think is okay. Like sometimes people obviously try and they have this thing, but I feel like once you've kind of like justified it, and then why you're not going to someone else? Why do you want to be with me? Like, you know, do this with me. There must be something that I'm providing, right?
Yeah.
So I have stopped seeing it like that completely.
Yeah.
And like I said, systems, frameworks, important. So we have like proper systems where people can see our consultation fee in the first go for our different practices and everything. And if you're aligned with that, you think that works for you, you can come to us. Otherwise, it's okay. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, that's
That is
fine.
the first thing that I want to know.
Yeah.
That like, is this aligned in terms of financials?
Yeah. And we also spoke about, you mentioned in the beginning, how having visibility on numbers, knowing that all the basics are covered, everyone's expenses is covered, actually frees up space to think more creatively as well,
completely.
because otherwise you're stressed about paying collaborators,
All the
vendors,
time.
everybody.
Yeah.
What is financial independence for you in the context of all these things? Because for, you know, I know that a lot of people who are employed in certain jobs, they might have this FIRE approach, financial independence, retire early, because there the goal is to stop working and then live life.
Live life. Yeah.
For us,
It
this
is
is the life
simultaneous, yeah.
we want to live.
Yeah.
And at the same time, is there any thought about financial independence as a creative founder?
So I would say like financial independence for me is not like, oh, I want to shut my company and then I want to move to some country and live like my happy life there. No, that's not what I envision at all. I am doing this only like for my life. The financial freedom, I would say, is like for me to have freedom to choose.
Yeah.
The freedom to rest, to decide that, okay, I want to take a break for like 2 weeks and travel, because travel for me is inspiration. I genuinely come back so refreshed and I'm so much better and my projects in terms of like thinking, because it expands your
Yeah.
mind and wherever the things that places that I want to travel to. So I feel like freedom for me is like, okay, if today I want to decide that, okay, 30 days I don't want to be here, but my business should be running, and I want to maybe explore something else, maybe like go check out some products and like, start something different along with that, and then I don't have to worry about like the day-to-day things, even in financial way. Because for example, you're working with people and you want to make sure that everybody is compensated in the right way so that they have
Yeah.
self motivation for themselves,
Yeah.
where I am not sitting and running behind everybody that you need to do your job correctly. They should be excited about their work and they should be
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm getting paid fairly.
Yes.
So the financial independence would be that I'm able to pay everybody, and I'm able to sustain everything, and I'm able to like take a step back when I want and come back when I want, while it all running
Yeah. So
smoothly.
it's sounding like financial freedom is one, the business's stability, and then time freedom for you.
Yes. So time freedom, I would say it's not like that I don't care about my work. It's just like you need a reset in the middle to come back better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna put my life of like 10 years here and then just like move away from this. No, I want to
Yeah.
make it better. I want to grow it better. That's what we're constantly thinking, that okay, this thing in this project could have been done in this way. This could have made the system faster, or this could have eased the process for my client, or like we could have shared it like this, or we could have done. So you're constantly improving
Yeah.
that as well, right? So you need some space to think, to do
Yes.
that. While I'm in the day to day of it, it's harder for me to think that, okay, because I'm so worried about the micro, I'm not able to see the macro
Yeah.
of it. So I feel like that space and time freedom is just for that. And like, and also like time freedom to be able to like build relationships in the industry with other people, go for different events and have an understanding of what is going in the market, and not just like stay here where you are. So I would say that would be financial independence for me. Yeah.
It's always interesting to get the answer to this question.
Because it's really different for everybody.
Yes, it's so different.
Yeah.
I do feel that at some level it ties in with having enough money to get my time back and then do whatever with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's just different degrees of that with different people.
yeah. Okay. One final question. So, the early years of building a studio are always chaotic. We spoke about the awkward transition from being a practitioner to becoming a studio.
Yeah.
You mentioned how having a polar opposite opinion, having conversations with people who don't have the same fears as you can be so helpful. And I know that you're constantly on the journey of
Yeah.
learning, improving yourself. I've seen you go through that over the last 6 years. Is there a resource that you wish was there, especially when you were starting out, or even right now? Is there a resource you wish was there for creative founders like yourself?
I feel like there should be some reality checks available. That okay, this is not like a piece of cake.
Yeah.
This is a journey which is hard. It's rewarding, but it's hard, and it will kind of expose all your own fears and like like push you to grow. There's no other way out of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like if there was support around going through that, like you just knowing someone else is going through the similar thing as you,
Yeah.
and in like really weird ways, like for example, people who are setting up similar kind of businesses, or even if they're in product, if it's the same space or a different space or some other creative space, I think conversations really help. But I think making that community is so hard because you don't know how to find people like this. Like okay, fine, we were in CCDP together, so we do have like a community. For me, it took me a while to find people to feel like it was such a small thing. Like recently, I was going through this whole termite issue in my house, and that day I was speaking to Shreya from Altrove, and she's my friend. We are going through the same industry, we're the same
Yeah.
age, and she just messaged me that she was going through the exact same thing, the exact same month, exact same time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just knowing that made me feel better. She said the same thing, that I feel supported, and like I was like, I don't know why, because
Yeah.
so I feel like just knowing that okay, you're not alone in it.
Yeah.
People are going through similar experiences, because from the outside of it, it just feels like your life is perfect, and you feel aspirational. People think that, oh, this is how you should be running a business. This is so cool. They're just doing this because this is what I'm showing, right?
Yeah.
Who knows the parts which are in
Yeah.
between, where you're struggling with the fear of like even being seen, or being putting something out there,
Yeah.
or like having a conversation, or having a client call and feeling intimidated in that. Like nobody understands those things.
Yeah.
I feel like just having a community where you can have open conversations, where
Yeah.
you can speak to people, and people are like, oh my god, I understand,
Yeah.
I feel you.
Without even jumping to solutions.
Nobody needs solutions. Solutions will come to me only. I'll only have to figure it out eventually.
Yeah.
But like just saying that, yeah, like we're all in the same boat. Or like if I have figured out some solution, I can help
Yeah.
you with it. That I
Yeah.
was here
Yeah.
as well, right? So I think that really helps. But I would say that it's a journey that you have to go through yourself.
Yeah.
You can pick bits and pieces from other people's journey and make a little bit of it
Yeah.
easier for you, but ultimately you have to go through yourself, and like you will grow out of it and learn yourself.
Yeah.
But I would say that, like as a person, that I am more like organized. I am more type A person.
You are very organized, by the way. I've worked with so many people, and every single person I've worked with is a mad creative genius. But you are exceptionally the organized one.
Okay, I didn't know that, because I still feel like I'm not that organized.
No,
but I
you're
feel
very
like,
organized.
but I feel like I think the systems and the organization helps me
Yes.
a lot. So I would say that is the most important thing, that my creativity flourishes when everything is in systems, when I'm updated on what is happening. I'm
Yeah.
not worried. My whole brain space is not going in that worry of like what is happening.
Yeah.
I know people know what next to do. I know they know the system.
Yeah.
I think that really helps me. But I feel like there's still a lot more need to help with the creative frameworks of things, because everything is so according to the exact business and the exact experience.
Yeah.
So I think that has to be figured out somewhere, because it's not directly happening by just like one software or
Yeah.
like just one thing. There are like multiple things that need to be integrated.
Yeah.
So I guess like you are doing it, where you're helping creative businesses find structure and process and systems. I think that if early on was there, would have been much easier. I think it came to, but it still, I feel like it came to me at the right time still.
Yeah.
Like 3 years ago, I think started building it. I think
Yeah.
that really changed a lot of things.
And
for me.
your team really took ownership of using those systems. That
Yeah.
was also really important. So
yeah. So
that
I
was
think
helpful.
yeah, and also like then, because you have to constantly evolve those systems within and everything. So you need like people who can see it from an outside perspective and then help you frame
Yes.
those issues into like proper systems.
Yeah, so I think like one is the community part of it, because
Yeah.
of course the creative journey, the business journey, all of it gets so much more richer when it is shared.
Yeah. So I think one is that
yeah.
community for the emotional part,
Yeah.
and then there are like creative system geniuses who you need for the operation part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true. And I hope that more and more people start getting access to this consulting
Yeah.
work, and
Also aware that this is something that is available.
yeah.
Like I don't think most people know that this is something they can find, or there are people who are
Yeah.
actually doing it
Yeah.
as well. I've just been very lucky because we knew each other from before.
Yeah.
And you decided to do this amazing thing.
I actually don't think I've done a very good job of telling the world that
Yeah,
this
I know,
service is
right?
available, because I'm limited by one person's bandwidth. So I'm like, how many people will I tell?
Yeah,
But
it's
I
your
think
transition from your practitioner to studio.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so I think I think
I'll
say
be able
that.
to scale the impact that way.
Yeah. Because see, ultimately it's like I can say it's the scaling of the impact, like you said, right? Like I can say that okay, as a person I can maybe take 5 projects on my own where I don't, but like I know how it changes how people live and how it makes them
Yeah.
feel,
Yeah.
and I want to make more of that impact. So if I'm not able to scale my systems, how am I able to do
Yeah,
that? As a person,
that's
a
true.
single person, there is a limitation to my bandwidth of what I can do.
Yeah.
So I think that's why systems are important, scaling is important, because
Yeah.
creative businesses are doing impactful work in a very different way,
Yeah.
which needs to be like
Scaled.
scaled
Yes.
more.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the other thing you said, I've heard this on social media, but it's so true that building a business is like self-development on steroids.
It is like,
It's-
and nobody prepares you for
Nobody
it.
prepares you for
Because you
it.
have no awareness of what the self-development that is required
Yeah.
for you to be this person, to be running to a business or studio or whatever.
Yeah, it's not just about all the business books and this
Yeah.
and that. It's about acknowledging your biggest
Yeah.
fears and what
Yeah.
all can hold you back. And
Yeah,
it's quite a
completely.
personal journey.
Yeah.
But thank you for sharing this conversation with me, and it's so nice to be, on
Yeah.
this journey together.
Yeah.
I just realized it's been 6 years
Yeah, it's
of
been
kind of
6 years.
seeing each other do different things and
Yeah, it's been a long
arrive
time.
where we are at. It's very
Thank
nice.
you.